Peace, world. This is your brother Mikey Fever NYP. Co-host can't make it in today, but we got the show, and the show must go on. We got the legendary Sharif Anael with us today. Yep, and today we'll be talking about understanding Moorish science.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go from A to Z as best as possible. So I'm gonna come off as a newbie.
Yes, sir.
Trying to understand what is Moorish science.
Cool.
Say somebody like wants to learn about Moorish science.
Cool.
What's their point?
There's a number of I'll begin with this statement. The term Moorish science became a term. It became a term that's used amongst students of Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
Got you.
Okay, and those that connect themselves in some shape, form, or fashion to the Moorish American movement. The Moorish American movement is a movement that is designed to restore the pre-slavery identity and character to the people that were formerly enslaved in America of African descent.
Got you.
Okay, so the term Moorish science, like I said, did not necessarily originate with the founder. The name of the organization is the Moorish Science Temple of America. So obviously that's where the term Moorish science comes from. But Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we don't have a record of him ever using the phrase Moorish science. So I just want to say that because I just want to get that out of the way. Now, that being said, the term Moorish science has been defined as a body of knowledge based on identification that tends to distinguish the descendants of slaves from the institution of slavery.
Understood. So we touched on that. I remember.
Yes, sir.
But as far as I think that's a great introduction. As far as the science aspect of it, what sciences, practices are involved behind Moorish science? Or what is practice?
Well, the most comprehensive answer to that question, to that question is what we've been instructed by Prophet Noble Drew Ali to know and to study. We've been instructed to know and to study ourselves.
Got you.
Okay, so the study and knowledge of self is, what comprises the whole of what we could call Moorish science. And of course, it sounds simple to know thyself and to study thyself, but of course, it's not simple. Of course, it is wildly complicated, right? So that is the comprehensive answer. It's the study of self. The study of self. So there's all kinds of things that can be used as tools in the study of self.
Gotcha.
I want to say it that way because you'll have some people that will say, well, Moorish science is astrology. Well, Moorish science is that. Those are tools.
I got you.
I wouldn't say Moorish science is those things. I would say that those are and or can be tools in the study of self.
Sounds familiar, but understood. I got you.
Yes, tools in the study of self. That not, one of those particular things being the totality of Moorish science. No.
All right. No. So with that being said, right, when you say study of self, so and they say Moorish science, a lot of people tend to say when they get involved in Moorish science, there's always some kind of paradigm shift that takes place within the mind, body, and soul.
Yes, sir.
And they always say they revert back to the Moorish Quran, the Circle 7,
and such.
What does the 7 represent on that book? Is it connected to the chakras? Or
could be
7 liberal arts.
Could be 7 liberal arts.
I'm just taking a shot in the dark.
Yeah. So, the short answer is that yes, it relates to all of those things. That's the short answer. As it relates to the self, okay, let's take, for instance, let's focus on one of the things you mentioned, the chakras, right?
Yeah.
How many chakras? 7.
Mhm.
What are the chakras? See?
Mm.
Now we're talking that, because again, remember, if it doesn't relate to ourselves and the study of ourselves, 1, 2. Here's the other part, most important. If it's not eminently practical, then it has no use. Because I know a lot of people that can tell you the colors of the chakras and this, but that's about as far as it goes. They know about some things, but they have no functional knowledge. So let's talk about the chakras, right? Real quick. What are they? See, what are they? Prophet Drew Ali gives us in our literature, you mentioned the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, affectionately called the Circle 7 Quran, right? It's not a book of history. It's not a book of I mean, does it have some historical things in it? Yes. But it's really not a book of history. It's not a pamphlet of history. What it is literature that restores the old world thinking and the old world narrative of your forefathers. So it's an instructional on how to think. That being said, we apply the instructions in that to everything that we desire to think about. So now we're thinking about chakras, right? Well, Prophet Drew Ali in chapter 1 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America teaches us that man is not the body nor the soul. Man is spirit and part of Allah, right?
Yes.
And that also, he teaches us that the realm of soul, or the plane of soul, is but the ethers of the spirit plane vibrating not so fast. And in that slower rhythm, the essences of life are manifest. Woo. See? Now we're getting somewhere. So now let's apply that to the chakras. Well, if the chakras are part of the human energetic field, which they are, right? They're part of the human energetic field. So energetics is another way we can describe the essences of life. See that?
That's deep.
Okay. So it makes perfect sense that the 7 chakras are aligned exactly with the 7 ductless glands of the endocrine system.
So it's back to know thyself.
It's back to know thyself. So now you really want to get a base knowledge of what the chakras are. First, study the endocrine system. Remember, a Prophet Drew Ali also gave us another instruction. We come to Allah through ceremonies and forms. Well, the body and the soul of man is a ceremony and a form.
Exactly.
He instructs us, if we're to see or omnipotence displayed before our face, to contemplate our frame. See? Just like you mentioned before, brothers, we already know, as above, so below. If I want to measure the ceiling, all I got to do is measure the floor.
That's a fact.
See what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
Right. So I can look at the result of Allah's intelligence manifested in my own frame to get insight on the maker himself. You see?
Drop a bomb on that. That's peace.
You get what I'm saying? So you got the 7 chakras, which are the 7 energetic matrices of the 7 glands of the endocrine system. Well, the endocrine system doesn't just cover physiology, it covers psychology too.
It does.
See? Yes, it does. So now let's take it a step further. Why 7? Goes back to your original question, right?
Yeah. Because
7 is the number of manifest realms on the plane of manifest. That's why.
You know what? The prophet was onto something, and that's why they call him a prophet, because it's it sounds so similar to what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds so close to Hermetic teachings as well.
Truth is truth. See, no, there's only one way to tell the truth. We may say it in many different languages, or we may describe it with different words, but truth is one. And that's like you said about the prophet being a prophet. He didn't just make us or provide for us the means to become skilled within the Moorish Science symbol of America. He provided with us the knowledge to be recognized as skilled no matter where we go. You know, like in another school of thought says, so I can travel in foreign countries and earn a master's wages.
Yes.
Same
That's a
thing.
fact. Know how to
Same thing,
navigate it.
bro.
Got you. So with that, with the esoteric teachings, right?
Yes, sir.
We going there, right?
Yeah.
I always heard this, and being that I'm a traveler myself, they always say
Yes, sir.
this, that Masons are the custodians for Moorish science.
Brother,
I don't know how many more will probably become angry with me saying this, but I always
brother, it's listen, that is the absolute truth. Historically and structurally, it is. That is the truth. Now we're talking about the institution and the contents of the institution. We're not talking about the individuals that may be running those institutions at this time. We're talking about the institutions and the material that they convey.
Got you.
Okay, that's what it is, and you know this. I'm preaching to the choir, right?
Yeah.
These are things that were passed from some of our forefathers to the European, specifically during the period of the Crusades. That is a key significant period when these things were being passed. Why? Our civilization was on its way down. Via the Reconquista, they were on their way up.
Beating us with our own sciences. Exactly.
Here it is, brother. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people that their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery.
Exactly.
But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name in order to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. So what do we mean by that? Recognition doesn't mean permission.
Got you.
Like when the chairman or the speaker of the house says the floor recognizes such and such, that means they've earned a right to speak. You understand? So this is what that means, the recognition. But where does the recognition end? It begins with me demanding the recognition through my lifestyle. It ends with society at large admitting the same.
Exactly.
So where must this influence be planted? In the mainstream. I bring this up because during the time period in question, the Crusades in Europe, who ran Europe? An Islamic African entity called the Moorish Empire, the Moroccan Empire.
Exactly.
That's who ran it. So we ran the narrative. We kept the narrative. Even though we were on our way down, it was still our society. So for the Europeans to gain ground, it had to have root where? In our mainstream.
Gotcha.
It's 500 some odd years later, and we got the same thing happening in reverse.
That's a fact.
European society, or the European ideal of American society, is the status quo. That's why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the members in the 1920s, the European is behind me, why not you? It's your problem. See?
Bingo.
It's your problem.
You see how deep that is? How you put that beautifully together. That is so true.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned, because that paradigm shift is so imperative now, like hearing it in retrospect.
Yes.
How they determine our destiny through words and labels and the power that words do have.
Yes.
So that's like, in layman terms, a big form of witchcraft, as they would put it.
Of course it is, bro. Casting spells is casting spells. Whether you want to call it casting spells from the medieval era, or call it elite marketing in the modern era, or call it neurolinguistic programming in the marketing era, in the modern era. It's all the same.
Because you say knowing thyself. So we know that the human body is 98% of water, quote unquote, as they put it.
Largely water.
Right. So, as scientists have proven, when speaking, you get a glass of water, you speak to it, you could, alter the vibration of that water through, tones and frequencies. So I think that's what had happened to our people.
Brother, let me tell you how real that is. Right? As you all know, and many of the viewers know, I'm a martial arts instructor, right? Part of our martial arts training is also healing. It's Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is energetic medicine. Not
Mm,
just physical medicine, it's energetic medicine. So we treat the energetic body.
exactly.
From a religious perspective, that means energy, that means medicine at the soul level. Because thought is an energy.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking produces energy. Thinking is energy itself. And this is an energetic medicine modality. That's what Chinese medicine is. Now, I say that for this reason. We teach a course, a certified medical Qigong course. Qigong is Chinese bioenergetics, right? Where we treat people without touching them. Now, part of the test is practical, where we get 2 cups of wine, right? From the same bottle, pour it, and then somebody's tasting it to make sure it's the same wine.
Got you.
The person testing has to project their energy without touching the cup into one of the cups for 60 seconds to change the pH content.
Wow.
And then they taste it again to see if there's a difference. So we really train this thing. We really practically do it. It's not just religious dogma.
Exactly.
Practical. So without touching, just with the power of thought and breath,
Mm-hmm.
we can change the physiology of another human being without physically touching them. We do this for real, brother. It's not just, you see what I'm saying?
No,
it's not just philosophy.
Morals and
not
dogma.
just religious dogma.
Exactly.
It's not just so-called metaphysics. It's all of those things, but it's practical. We can do it in real time.
So, and that's true, because I have seen like certain artwork of Moors. This is a long time ago. I seen a depiction of a Moorish person within like a temple or something, was invoking some kind of energy through like a pentagram, something like that. I don't know. And I was like, I love that piece of art. It was so beautiful, because a lot of the now I'm reading this book, the Sagala. It's a beautiful book.
Appreciate you, bro.
Nah, it's the Portable Illumination. I always get mixed the title, but reading that book,
Elixir Sagala. So real quick, for the viewers, that's one of my books.
Yeah.
I called it Elixir Sagala for a reason. First of all, an elixir is, properly something that you take, whether it's physical you drink or it's knowledge that you put in your head, but it's a specific type of thing that you're taking in your body. It's an elixir because it has been transformed.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And because it has been transformed, it imparts some of its transformative effect on the person who takes it. Right? That's why I said elixir. The term sagala is an old word used by the doggone priesthood in Mali to describe the material of which Sirius B is comprised of. Remember, it was the doggone tribe that had deep scientific knowledge about the Sirius star system long before the European even invented the radio telescope and verified for himself that it was a binary star system.
That's a fact.
So Sirius B is what they call a white dwarf. And it is so dense and so compact that a teaspoonful of its material will drop to the center of the earth.
Wow.
It's so heavy. So it's so small, but so dense, its gravitational field affects things on Earth. So that's it. And because it's so dense, they say that this star is made of a metal and they call it Sagala. So the whole idea is to have your body of knowledge, your level of accomplishment so refined, so dense, so compact that a little of your wisdom has a great effect on others, has a great influence on others. That's what the prophet did with the Holy Quran and the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's a little pamphlet of 64 pages.
You see how you put that? Which is beautifully said as you put down the elixir, the science of the elixir, and the Sagala knowledge, information, which is a good book so far. Not lying.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
very
you.
Good.
Thank you.
With the teachings of the Holy Quran, Circle 7, Moorish Quran, right?
Yes, sir.
People tend to debate that it came, the words that were used by the prophet it was divinely prepared.
Yes, sir.
The Aquarian gospel, right?
They say it's plagiarized, right?
Yeah.
Let me start. I'm gonna just go work backwards on this.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna work backwards on this. Let's presume, just for argument's sake, I'm not saying it was, but let's say, for argument's sake, it was plagiarized. Let's just say that, right? Okay. On page 3, which wasn't plagiarized, page 3, the very, very first page is page 3. You, being who you are, being a traveling man, understand the significance of the very first page being page 3. All right.
Of course.
Yeah, you're not starting in the ante room. You're starting right on the master's carpet. See what I'm saying?
That's
all right,
it.
that being said, on that page, Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, the reason these secrets have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time was appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages, have these secrets been delivered into the hands of the Muslims of America. Okay? What is the significance of this? Let's say, again, let's go back to what I said. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that they were he plagiarized this from another book. He said the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine. What kind of people live there? People that look like you and me.
Yeah, of course. Darker hue. Dravidians, as they call them.
Kept these secrets back and kept them back from the outside world. When the time was appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. So for the first time in ages, these secrets have been delivered into the hands of the Muslims of North America. That's us. So whose was it to begin with? Ours to begin with. So even if he did plagiarize it, so what? It was ours anyway.
I was going to say that to that as well, because how many things were plagiarized by the European that were taken from them?
Come on, exactly.
That's till this day. That was pulled from.
So in other words, people trying to criticize Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right? For that, first of all, it wasn't plagiarized, but secondly, right? That's a poor argument. It's a very, very poor argument, especially when you can't even tell me what's in the pamphlet, when you don't even recognize the fact that it was yours to begin with anyway. How about that? See,
that's a fact.
Yeah. How about we take a look and see what's in it first before we start making judgments about where it came from? See,
it's pretty deep.
Yeah.
I didn't really thoroughly, but I read a few pages in it. It's very deep.
Let's just say this. It says when again, I'm using Prophet Noble Drew Ali's words. He says, and when the time was appointed by Allah, he loosened the keys and freed these secrets. These are secrets. Well, what kind of groups keep these kinds of secrets? Answer, we already know.
Yeah.
All right. So even those secret organizations were answering to something higher, weren't they?
Exactly.
And they were answering to something higher in a way that benefited the fallen Asiatic sons and daughters of North America that are misnomer, Negro, black, colored, etc. See that?
Of course.
This is big. You see?
Yes,
so when Levi Dowling gets hauled into court and says, well, where'd you get this book from? He said, I got it from the Akashic Records. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was more comprehensive and more truthful in saying where he got it from.
Where he got it from.
On page 3. See that? He said the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine. In other words, we're talking about what, people? And I'm going to use the word most likely, to be safe, to be academically and scholastically responsible. Most likely, we're talking about secret orders.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. We do know that this stuff at this particular time was connected to we know that it was connected to two particular, that body of knowledge was connected to two particular orders. I'm not going to name the orders, but we know of two in particular, and they were housed where? India, Egypt, and Palestine.
Exactly.
Just like the prophet said. See? So there we go.
That's it. No, you hit it right in the head. And I was gonna say too, as that guy Darling said, he got it from Akashic Record. That still pertains. It's not being egotistical. It goes back to our sciences as well.
Of course, but come on, brother.
If you want to go back to the whole ephod thing and all that, it all goes back to that. The binaries,
it all goes back. Right,
you know,
0 and 1s, right?
Yep.
The ability to read them, right?
Yep. You know what I'm saying? 4, 2, 3. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, pardon me. It's 4. Yeah, it's 4, 2, and 3. Yeah, exactly. So that's what it all lines up. It's the terms and everything else. So
that's fact. That's fact.
To jump on that, right?
Yes, sir.
With the esoteric, that sound more esoteric teaching of the Moorish
Let's
side,
go.
right?
Yeah.
how can one, after he joins the temple,
Yes.
what books does he look for to he or she chooses to read?
Good
What books
question.
do you recommend?
Good question. Now remember the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science, Symbol of America, right? The
Hmm.
Quran questionnaire and the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Those are the three primary pieces of literature. These are two of the three, right?
Okay. Hmm.
So we are to confirm or conform ourselves to our literature first and foremost. Why? Because it restores the right psychology.
All right.
We have to, before we can start exploring what to study and what to think about, we have to first retrain ourselves on how to think.
Got
You
you.
see? So let's start there. Like you mentioned different books, right?
Hmm.
Let's start. The very first sentence on page 4, chapter 1, the creation and fall of man.
Hmm.
It says, time never was when man was not.
Yep.
That's where we begin. Time. So that tells us if you're digging deep, if you're truly studying, that tells us that time is a huge topic of our studies.
Hmm.
Why is time such a huge topic of our studies? Or why should it be? This is why. It is time that justifies and defines manifestation.
That's deep.
And so in the beginning of this chapter, it's giving you the spiritual anatomy of man himself. Man himself is the blue lodge. Man
Mm.
himself is 3 degrees. You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I was just taking it. I was like, yo.
Spirit, soul, body.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Man himself is the blue lodge. That being said, right? One part of man is outside of time. 2 parts of man are inside of time.
Mm.
So if we're to get back to ourselves and know our true self is the one that's outside of time. Get it? We have to study time. Why? Because time is the dividing line between eternity and what's temporary, between what's permanent and what's temporary.
So finite, as they put it, finite and infinite, basically.
Finite minds cannot comprehend things infinite.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're told in that same chapter. Finite minds. Didn't see. You see, later on in the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science, Symbol of America, we're challenged to raise our thoughts to infinite wisdom, which means it's possible. See?
It is.
But it says finite minds cannot comprehend things infinite. Why can finite minds not comprehend things infinite? Here's the answer. All things subject to time have a beginning and an end, which means what? Duality.
Mm-hmm.
Our senses function on duality.
Exactly.
I can prove it real easy. Imagine you're in space. There are no stars. It's just pure blackness. There's no stars. There's no air. There's no sound. There's nothing. And you're moving at 100 miles an hour. How do you even know you're moving? Because there's nothing around to contrast it with.
Yeah.
See? So when in the absence of duality, your 5 senses fall apart. That's why finite minds cannot comprehend things infinite. Allah is one. Spirit is one. Meaning that there is no distance or time in the spirit realm.
So that goes back to that science of man was created in the thoughts of Allah.
Absolutely. Yes. See? Now think about that. See, again, all of this is challenging, as you mentioned before, the paradigm we were raised in.
Mm-hmm.
We were raised under the European psychology that makes God a thing and man a thing. See? Mm-hmm. God is beyond thingness. Thingness requires duality, subject and object. See that?
That's true.
Allah is beyond that, which is why we can't comprehend him with finite thinking. We can't make him a mere ideal of man.
No, we can't. No.
See?
Can't.
But guess what? We can't make our true selves a mere ideal of man either. See, we're talking about the omnipotence of Allah, which is the omnipotence of man.
That's deep.
See what I'm saying? That's it. So it's easy for us to say man is God. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
What's not easy is to give an explanation of what is man. That ain't so easy. That requires a bunch of study. We can always quote somebody else's words, but do we know that way? No, we got to be what we know. That's where the study part comes in.
The mind, you got to travel. You got to let the mind.
You brother, that you already know. That's the work. You have to challenge the limits of your perception.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Now that we're going on there, we're building on the sciences and esoteric and what mine is. I'd like to know, all right, being that we say Moors, to become a Moor, you must go to Circle 7 in the questionnaire, the one and by the Constitution. What you said again? I don't want to be wrong.
Okay, so let me share this. Let me say, I'd rather say it this way.
Yes.
Right? We are never becoming a Moor. Some people may disagree with me. Listen, the Prophet Drew Ali said, no man can change the descent nature of his forefathers.
That's a fact.
In other words, that's like asking a Chinese person, how did he become Chinese?
It's there.
How did the Italian person become it? He never became Italian. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
See? Prophet Drew Ali said, what your forefathers were, you are today, without a doubt, a contradiction.
That's the paradigm
so
shift.
It's not that we're becoming Moors. What it is that we're growing into the understanding of what being ourselves actually is.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
You realize that our people are the only people in the history of humanity that had to be taught collectively who they were again?
Yes. Yes. No, it's true. No, it's oh my God, it's a true thing. Yeah. It's something that this happened across the Caribbean as well, the diaspora.
Come on,
because you pick up the language of your oppressor, you pick up the ways and teachings. It's when you start deconstructing that, you go back into your true self. You start finding that.
Ain't that something?
Of course, and even way before I took my travels, I always was interested in Moorish science. Something about it always. I love how the brothers stand out, how they speak with such confidence. And he said that they think very infinite. They think outside the box. Like, okay,
outside the box.
I present as quote unquote black,
right?
But I'm going by nationality. And you know what? To even go further, I was creating the image of the higher power.
Bottom line.
You understand?
Bottom line.
And other people do it differently. Like different, same house, different. I mean, same house, different rooms. Like the gods, they say, I'm the true and living being. I'm true and living God.
Right.
But I still get the concept of them still holding the 7. So I always try to tie the 7 up. Like something's there. They're trying to.
So the 7. Let's go right back to that whole 7 thing, right? We talked about the 7 chakras, for instance. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about how those 7 chakras are the energetic life behind the 7 endocrine glands.
Yes.
The glands of the endocrine system. What do those glands do? They secrete. They secrete secretions.
Yeah.
Right. Those secretions govern the physiology of the body and the psychology of the mind.
Got you.
They govern the entire being of the manifest man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why 7? Follow me, right?
Yeah.
According to Prophet Noble Drew Ali and his teachings, right? Chapter 11, the Holy Quran of Moorish Science of America says that the triune Allah breathed forth and behold 7 spirits stood before its face. The Hebrews called these 7 spirits Elohim. Our brothers in Haiti may call them something else. Right? Okay. But these 7 spirits are what? They're the governors of all things that are manifest.
Yeah, of course.
Chapter 1 talks about the soil of soul and how Allah's thoughts go into that soil and they grow.
Mm-hmm.
That soil has 7 rungs, has 7 realms, 7 ethers. In other words, there's 7 worlds, like in the Quran of Mecca, right? Where it says Sarat al-Mustaqim, right? Lord of all the worlds, all the realms of experience. How many realms? 7. That's how many. You see, that is why that is the 7 of time.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? We measure time by cycle ages. A circle with 7 spokes. That's why there's 7 days in the week.
I'm about to allude to that. And, and to break it down for those who are into numerology, they say that our history renews every 25,000 years. If you remove those zeros, just add that 2 and that 5, it gives you a 7. You know,
How
it's
about that?
about it's like reducing and adding on. You know what I'm saying? Either way,
See?
mathematically.
7 days in a week, 52 weeks in a year. 5 plus 2 is 7.
Mm.
You understand?
It depends. I have a question though.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to like, there's a lot of intelligent, brilliant Moors. Shout out to the forefathers who started the movement. Shout out to Noble Drew Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the others after. With all due respect, how do you feel about this brother right here? I know people tend to feel like they very controversial when you mention his name. I fell upon his work.
Prophet Drew Ali taught us this, right? Act 4, in Act 4 of the additional laws. This is a problem. See, a lot of our laws and things, they're read publicly so that the public can hold us accountable. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So this is one of our laws. Those of us that call ourselves students of Prophet Drew Ali. Act 4, the additional laws. It says all members are making a public speech must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So if you hear somebody talking crazy about a member of another organized group, no matter what it is, you can tell that they're a poor student. All right. That being said,
that's deep.
Brother Charles Mosley Bay did a lot. He was a very educated man, very sharp on a lot of things.
Yes, he was.
I will say this: most people who read his work nowadays don't fully understand it because they don't understand the context in which it was written.
I get it.
I'm going to give you an example. In Clock of Destiny, he talks about, he makes it, and I'm paraphrasing the statement, but I'm paraphrasing it very closely. He says, if it wasn't for the strenuous and unreasonable religious dogmatic practices of the Order of Islam, there definitely would not have been the rise of the Order of Mary and Christ.
True.
This is how many people misunderstand and misinterpret that. They took that statement to mean that Christianity or the Roman Catholic Church rose out of old medieval Islamic religious practice. Not what he meant. You have to have a knowledge of his context. And in this case, his context was historical. It was an episode in history he was speaking about. And now I'm going to share that for the listeners and the viewers. The episode of history he was speaking about was the transition period of the Moroccan Empire in Europe from the Umayyads to the Abbasids.
Yes, he touched
on that.
When the
Umayyads, that's who began, started the invasion in Spain, which was actually welcomed by the Europeans there, by the way, in 711 AD. Right? Though the Umayyad dynasty was where you had the sharp rise and increase in cultural advancement, scientific advancement, social advancement. That's when you had that. When the Abbasids took over, that's when that's when a lot of the infighting started. A lot of the social and religious intrigue started to happen. This is when we started to decline.
Exactly.
Now, this was when what's called in history the Reconquista had its rise. That was the 500-year fight by Europeans to retake control of Spain from the Muslims, from our people. That's when that took place. So when it's talking about if it wasn't for the strenuous, unreasonable, dogmatic practices of the Abbasids, that's what caused our decline. That's what enabled the Europeans to rise in power. And in particular, Charles Mosley Bay was very smart. He said the Order of Mary and Christ. Here we go. More history for the viewers. In the year 1442, Pope Eugene IV authorized raids on the West African coast for slaves. And it was a papal bull in order called Ilias Qa Pro Se Divini. And he called it a new crusade against the Moors. But who did he authorize to do the raids? A Portuguese military order called the Order of Mary and Christ. See? Mbe was very smart. He was very educated, but without having the historical context of what he was speaking on, then people start adding their own narratives, and then they end up in the wrong direction.
That's a fact, because I from reading this, I read this like 10 years ago and going through it again. Everything that he said is actually has happened. It's continuing to happen. It's actually a war amongst two nations, basically.
With the Crusades never stopped, bro.
Yeah, nah, it's still going on. It's still going on. And we said this a few episodes ago when the 2020 riots were taking place.
Yes, sir.
When your man stood in front of that church,
come on,
that
brother.
Bible up.
Come on, brother.
That was that dog whistle, like saying this is not going to happen.
It was a super dog whistle. Get this book, The Bloody Shirt by Stephen Budiansky. Talks about it very clearly. The South only lost the Civil War physically.
Yeah.
He talks about it when you have organizations like the Daughters of the American Confederacy still fighting, they're fighting with controlling textbooks. That's how they're fighting. Exactly. Yeah. They're fighting by erecting monuments. That's how they're fighting. You see what I'm saying?
So with all this being said and done, right, and the knowledge that the Moorish Science Temple of America has and other Moorish movements, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to even jump into the whole, riff and split amongst the groups.
Yeah.
How can each group, from your perspective, benefit and raise the consciousness of the people?
Stop playing. First off, get back to the studies and become a true student of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. See? Become a true student, right? And begin to really broadcast the Prophet's signal into the matrix.
Got you.
See? And like here's an example. Man's not the body, the soul, man's spirit, and part of Allah. Let's start right there. If you the first study it, and by studying it means what? Live your life in that fashion. Well, think about it. If man's not the body or the soul, man, the spirit, and part of Allah, that means when when this physical body gives out and my soul and spirit leave it, we can no longer call that death. See the implication? See, many people just reading the words, they're not putting it to study.
It's a transition.
We can't call that physical death. Because that same chapter says, while Allah lives, man cannot die. So the passing of the soul out of this flesh, properly according to the Prophet, is not death.
Got you.
So imagine living your life that way. What would going to a funeral be like? It would look like a traditional New Orleans funeral, wouldn't it?
That's a fact, because you're supposed to be celebrating life. Because you transition to the next level.
In the Caribbean, there's a very, very, very famous festival called Carnival.
It's about the death. Yeah.
It means farewell to the flesh, and it's a big celebration.
Yeah, the original one nowadays is just TNA.
Now it's skin out. Yeah, you already know. But you get my point though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So in other words, this is a war of narratives. It's a war of perspectives. It's a war of paradigms.
Exactly.
What are we tasked with? Bringing in the next world.
That's true.
Bringing in the next way of thinking. The only way to do it is to live it, and then to G up. So it's more people living it and making it mainstream. And in living it, you provide solutions that the previous paradigm can't provide.
Bingo.
Because our thinking is different. See?
That's a fact. I wish I had the sound effects for you, man. It's true what you said.
Yes, sir.
I would love to see that take place, because
I
believe all movements could do it if they come to a consensus and understanding and respect, no matter what your
brother. You know how the late brother Sanyika Shakur, Monster Cody, right?
Yeah.
Crip out of LA in his book Monster. You know how he put it? He's talked about our people. He said we're the easiest people to kill because we're scared of everything.
Exactly.
So think about what I just mentioned. if you really begin to live the life that man can't die while Allah lives, man can't die, man is not the body or the soul, man, spirit, and part of Allah, that makes you fearless. See what I'm saying? It makes you fearless. See,
yeah, nothing to worry about.
When the prophet said the fallen age that the sons and daughters of North America need to learn to love, and said love makes you fearless.
It does.
See, love makes you fearless. See that?
It does very much.
The mere fact that we have all the bickering and infighting means that there's still people scared to death.
They are. Yeah, a lot of people are
scared to death. See what I'm saying? Scared to death.
Why should I be afraid of my brother? I should feel the safest around my brother. That's how I look at it. I should feel the safest.
And you already know how it is, brother. If 2 or more of us, or 3 or more of us together, and there's thunder in the crowd, one of us ain't who they say they are.
Exactly. You know why? Because God's in the room when there's many of us. You know what I'm saying? But but as you said, we have to have that paradigm shift.
Yes.
And what's so important? Like I wanted to ask another question. I know this is like probably all over the place. Was CMB ever a student? Did he ever walk with the prophet?
There's a whole bunch of stories about all of that. Let me just paint the contextual background first. You've read CMB's literature. Nowhere in his literature does he even mention the name Moorish Science, Temple of America. Nowhere in his literature does he even mention the name Prophet Noble Drew Ali, right?
No, he don't.
You don't mention it. But now understand what was going on in the 30s and the 40s. Okay, see? People were getting their heads popped off around this movement. People were getting kidnapped. Temples were getting bombed. All kinds of crazy things. So, in his efforts to do whatever he was doing, he was making sure he avoided as best as possible all the foolery. See? So that's important to know. That's important to keep in mind as it relates to that. Now, that being said, was he a member of the Moorish Science of America or a student of Prophet Noble Drew Ali? I'm sure. I'm sure. Yes.
Because I don't hear him. I don't hear him as mentioned as much. Really, I'm like, I don't really. Hear him
but that's the reason you're holding it in your hands. He didn't mention the prophet. He put distance between himself and the organization, and which is okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
he
of course.
Put distance between himself and the organization. He was trying to do his own thing. See, the purpose of CMB's work was different than the prophet's. CMB aimed his work almost exclusively at initiated Freemasons and Eastern Stars.
Oh, okay.
Now he was trying to create like a talented 10th, like a Moorish talented 10th type of thing.
All right. So is that correct me if I'm wrong, is that similar to like the whole adept chamber thing, or is different?
Here we go. Yeah, it's definitely different. You have people that are saying that, well, what CMB taught was what the prophet taught and originally taught in the adept chamber. I don't know if I agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that necessarily. Okay.
So the adept chamber is different from Moorish Science. It's like a step above it. It's like a console or something.
No, look at it like this, brother. Look at it like this. You've got, let's take Blue Lodge. You got EA, you got FC, and then you've got Double M.
Yep.
Double M is when you go behind the veil. Right? Double M is when you go behind the veil. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The first 2 are preparatory.
Yeah.
They're to get you there. See what I'm saying?
Double M, you on your own, basically.
Right. So you have an outer door. We can, in this respect, we could say EA is the outer door. And the third degree is it provides you access to the inner door.
Yeah.
Every initiatory body has an outer door and an inner door, brother.
Of course.
Everyone, including religious organizations.
That's true.
That purport to initiate and confer degrees.
I heard of one. I actually I don't even want to get into that, but yeah, I knew a Catholic brother.
Yes, sir.
That told me about that. I was like, what?
Brother, the Catholics, to fight, to combat the desire of many Catholics to join Freemasonry. Because okay, here we go. Let's go back real quick. And this is for the viewers as well, but you already know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole institution of Freemasonry, as per the European, grew out of the beef that the Templars had with the church.
Exactly.
And what was the beef over? The Templars' secret interaction with us. You know that, and I know that. All right.
Yeah.
So that caused the beef, which caused the death of the Templar Grandmaster Jacques de Molay on Friday the 13th.
13th, yeah.
You already know, right? And so, yeah. And so the institution of Freemasonry for the European grew out of that beef. So it was always beef between the Catholic Church. You got it.
Mm-hmm.
All the way down to the French Revolution, of which Benjamin Franklin was helped to influence, and then shortly after the American Revolution, and the institution of separation of church and state, which came straight out of the lodge.
Got you, brother.
All right, now I had to say all that to say this, right? The Roman Catholic Church had more and more of their members trying to join the lodge. So they created an order. And you can look it up, and I want your viewers to look it up. It's called the Order of Alhambra. Well, where is Alhambra? Moorish Spain.
Exactly.
The Knights of Columbus, which is an order, a Roman Catholic order. They created this order to stop Catholics from trying to join Freemasonry. And the order is called the Order of Alhambra. And they wear white fezzes.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. So when the Shriners wear feathers on their head, it said Islam. Is that them going back to practicing Islam?
First, let's be very clear.
Mm-hmm.
As you already know, anybody that says that the Shriners that the Shrine is a free Masonic organization doesn't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to be a Freemason to enter the Shrine? Yes, but is the Shrine a Masonic organization? No, it's not. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, the Shrine. What again? It goes back. Without going into crazy detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without going into crazy detail, the Shrine represents what I just mentioned earlier. It represents the interface during the medieval era, during the Crusades, when the Muslims were fighting the Templar Christians.
Yep.
But then secretly information was passed. And they give honor to that. Now, many of them also, as you know, that the Shrine is also called the playground of Freemasonry. So many of them also ridicule it because they understand what they've done to the children of those forefathers.
That's deep right there. We gotta tap into that later. We gotta that's another show. We gotta talk about that because although I travel, I always keep in mind the lessons that I picked up from years of studying, with some Moorish literature, other African American scholars, and I always keep in mind, although I'm part of a Haitian temple, but we always I know that the secret is us. No matter how you try to put it,
no matter what,
market it,
no matter what,
we're the secret. The secret. When I mean secret, us is my people. People of darker hue, copper tone, whatever you want to call it.
In the
it's
Bible,
about us.
I believe the prophecy is the book of Isaiah, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says, where the eagles have gathered, so shall the carcass be.
Exactly.
What is the emblem of the United States? Animal,
Eagle.
totem.
Eagle.
What is meant by the word black? Black, according to science, means death.
Death. Exactly.
The carcasses. Okay.
It's beautiful.
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
In the Haramic legend, that
That's
Hiram's
us.
body was buried and hid in the northwest corner of the temple? The northwest corner?
That's us, man.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali says, what is the nationality of Ruth? Answer, Ruth is a Moabitess. What is the modern name for Moabites? Moroccans. Where's the Moroccan Empire? Northwest of Mexico.
Exactly.
Come on, bro.
Preach on that. And to add on to that, because this is why from years ago, 2005 and 8, I was caught up in that whole spooky thing. I'll never join a temple, Illuminati, and all that. Listen, use your brain out here, people. Let me tell you something.
Right.
They have always taken your sciences, perverted it, and made you afraid of it. Why they sit back and use it? You understand? It's a fact. It's a fact. They make you afraid of your own art. You got church people talking about don't practice Ifa, don't practice Apollo. Meanwhile, you see Europeans doing it, and they selling your craft online
all day long, brother. Or here we go. See, right? Like you. So, chapter 11, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science, Temple of America. Chapter 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Allah's own record book, we read the triune Allah breathed forth and stood 7 spirits before his face. The Hebrews call these 7 spirits Elohim. And these are they who in their boundless power created everything that is or was, meaning they govern manifestation. Mm-hmm. So, right back to what you said about the 7, we go right back to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, those 7 Elohim, anytime, so there's the law of correspondence in Hermetics.
Yes.
The law of correspondence, which is attuned to the basic laws of the language of mathematics. So if there's 7 days in a week and there's 7 atmosphere-bearing planets that those days are named out of from, and there's 7 corresponding energy centers or lesser brains in the body of man.
Talk about it.
Then it makes sense that those are all what? Touch points or plug-in points to access the 7 Elohim.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Energy per day in certain colors.
And if man's father is Allah and man and Allah are one, then one of the purposes of having those plugins is to have direct access to the 7 Elohim. So instead of being food for the gods, we command the gods.
Best piece.
Our whole thing is to rise in degrees above the angels too, to be a co-creator with Allah.
That's peace.
See, that's, so you want to talk about the 7, there you go. There you go. The 7-fold nature of man himself.